All right, guys. So our final topic here today is kind of some negative news. That's why we saved it for last here. And I guess you could put a maybe a positive spin on some negative news, but it's primarily some negative news in some way because there's pretty much been like a petition of sorts. It was a letter of Congress from a bunch of like film organizations, directors, you name it, uh, pretty much urging Congress to save the movie theaters because essentially uh, they've obviously been hurting very bad during all this because they've been closed just due to the pandemic and everything, and they have been probably, when you look at it, one of the most poorly managed, at least as far as like I don't know, getting any sort of like small business loans for just any sort of like government assistance has been like really poorly handled when it comes to the movie theaters. Like not so much that I'm not going to get into anything else like politically by any means, but like the movie theaters, no matter which way you look at it, like they've ever like almost every other state has been deeming them, non-essential for like operation. So they've been essentially given 0% help throughout the whole pandemic. So that's been like, despite just the people who work there with their everyday lives and everything, just for like the regular 9 to 5 job working at the movie theater, the people who own it, the people who own the buildings, all bad news for all of them. But it sparks a really bad, potentially bad, and just dramatic shift in what the kind of the whole film industry is going to be evolving into if like these theater associations and everything, all these people are you know pleading for is some help to these movie theaters because essentially if these movie theaters close, it's going to dramatically change the landscape of just the film industry altogether. So this this is a pretty impressive list here. If you go through this list on a deadline of just like people at the end, I'm not going to read this whole entire article. You guys can go look it up and read it, but it's essentially like there's some tidbits in here where it's like they go on to say like 93% of all theaters are essentially going to be declaring bankruptcy or something like that soon if changes don't occur. There's just a lot of information here to unpack, but the biggest thing that like I kind of want to talk about with you guys is like, what do you think? Oh yeah, hold on. First, like this huge list of just NATO, the DGA,
Judd
MPA,
Apatow, Wes Anderson.
yeah. Then like just actor or not actors, but like Sofia Coppola, these like big time directors, like Seth Rogen's name's on here, Zack Snyder's name's on here, Barry Jenkins, Patty Jenkins, Ryan Johnson, like tons of very influential film people, at least from the Hollywood standpoint. M. Night Shyamalan, the Sham Hammer here.
Shamhammer.
Like everybody, like there's tons
Guy
of
Ritchie.
people signing this letter to Congress here, just playing for some help for the theaters because,
Can you blame him?
well, no, like not at all because they like it's honestly been. That's what I was kind of saying on the top, like not to get like political with by any means, but like we were talking about like a week or so ago, or just on another show. There was a story about them like opening theaters somewhere, whatever. But then like I brought up that like New York and California still had the theaters closed, but they were opening places like bowling alleys and gyms and like all these things. And it's like their reasoning for not opening movie theaters is because they're non-essential and high risk. But it's like, but a bowling alley is essential and somehow less risk than a movie theater, and a gym is less risky than a movie theater. Like I can see the argument for a gym being more essential just for health reasons, but at the same time, at a movie theater, and like John, you said you've been to a movie theater since they've reopened, right? Like there's social distancing. Like they're like it's they have super high ceilings. They're super safe. Like there's a much safer environment than going out to dinner in a low ceiling restaurant where they're not social distancing. People are handling your food. Not that there's not food that you can get at a movie theater, but there's obviously a lot more contact with things that are going in your body at a restaurant than there would be at a movie theater. So I've always just found it kind of ridiculous that a lot of these states have been like I said, just not giving even as like they didn't get any help from like the loan stuff because they were being deemed these non-essential businesses and like blah 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 blah, and like they wouldn't even let them open either. And it's like this is just you take like any sort of politics aside from it, it's just shitty because there's so many people just ran into like a lot of problems here, and like with something like this as it pertains to like the stuff we talk about, which like the movie world, like it'll be like I don't know, it could with theaters gone, it's gonna dramatically change like how movies are made because no one's gonna be making like movies like Endgame, movies like like good Star Wars movies, like these movies that take $200+ million to make, $200 million to market. If you can't put that in a movie theater to make over $1 billion, then they're not gonna make that movie. Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna be fiscally like responsible for them. You're gonna start seeing much smaller budget movies. Some movies just aren't gonna happen. Like because you just can't make a movie for $300 million and then put it on Netflix or put it on HBO Max. Like you don't get enough return from that.
Yeah.
No, like let Mulan be of evidence to that. Even Tenet, which has had it hasn't gone like straight to stream or anything, but it's had a worldwide release with very limited theaters because half of them aren't open everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's only made like I think it's up to like $300 million.
Was that it?
Like that movie,
most of that is foreign box office too,
yeah,
with countries that have the virus more in check than the U.S. The U.S. it's only made 45 million. I just looked the numbers.
Oh,
up.
wow.
It's only made 45 million, which is arguably it's half of its opening weekend if it opens under normal circumstances, and it's been out for 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
So
it's been out as long as like normally a 6 week run is like how long a movie stays in theaters, and then it's like coming out of theaters. So like the majority of its run. I mean, even like look at Dunkirk as an example for like a Christopher Nolan movie. That movie went on to make like $800 million in the theaters. Some random ass war movie that wasn't even a war movie. Like just because Christopher Nolan's name on it made $800 million. It was a good movie, but it wasn't some big action thriller. Like it wasn't some big ass movie like Tenet.
It wasn't even like a main battle of the war either. It was some little side note of what happened during World War II, and it's still, like you said, because of Chris Nolan's attachment and everything else, it still made buku bucks.
Yeah, and that's that's just a really telling thing because and then you look at things like Mulan. I think is in the same boat. I don't have the numbers for it offhand, but I could look it up. But I think I just read an article too somewhere where like Bill and Ted was looking like it's projecting to maybe make profit, like by being like on streaming. But that's the kind of movie that works perfectly fine going to like a VOD thing. Like Bill and Ted didn't cost $100 million to make, and they weren't expecting to make $1 billion. Like you don't make $2.5 billion with Avengers Endgame if you put that thing on Disney Plus and charge people $30 for it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's like literally the day Mulan became available on Disney Plus, it was pirated and available like everywhere. You can't get that like that's like with theaters open, it's built-in protection against that kind of thing. That is a big problem with the movie industry, is piracy in general when it comes to like making your money back and everything. That's like
it's so easy when it's streaming to like copy it,
exactly. Like
very few people can offer the experience at home of seeing the movie on a screen as you can in a theater. So yeah, that, like you said, that the nature of a theater itself combats piracy to an extent.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like once you release it in high quality on a streaming service, every little kid and their mom has capture software for their computer anymore.
Yeah,
It's just half the time it's built in. You can download it for free. It's just easy. Like if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, it comes with Shadow Play. You just turn it on. You're recording everything on your screen. Like it's not hard to like easily capture that kind of stuff. Like with it, it's just.
And even if you don't turn around and sell it or distribute it, you can share it with just friends and family, and right there you're cutting into revenue loss or revenue from
Well, or you just repeat view it
Somebody
yourself.
people
Yeah, or you
Well,
just
yeah,
like
you
if
do.
I could have streamed Endgame and I record it, I paid $30 one time, whereas a lot of people went and saw Endgame in theaters 3, 4, or 5 times.
Yeah.
If you could watch it exactly right there, so as if you could have watched it at home, and if you pirated it, not that you would, but boom, you just cost them $15. You paid them $30 for that, but you went and saw it, 5 times in the theater, paid 15, $20 per ticket. They miss out on $70.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and in addition to that, like this is kind of along the same lines, kind of a little bit off topic, but like I think something will get done here. I don't know that it'll happen before the election. I don't even know that it'll happen before inauguration in January. But I think after that, once the contentious climate that we're living under has settled down some, I think something will happen, because when you think about it, the loss of revenue just to the movie companies is one thing, but you're talking about all the concessions, all the people that are employed by theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about billions upon billions of dollars into the U.S. economy that's being lost every year by theaters closing.
Yeah.
And I don't see that. I mean, we put billions of dollars into the airline industry to keep it afloat. We've put money into other industries, the automobile industry, to keep it afloat. I just can't see them not doing something to try and keep theaters.
Well, like you were saying with concessions too, I think I read somewhere that it was like 70% of like a theater's revenue or like income comes from concessions, like the profits.
100%.
So, like, I mean, if you're not even selling the concessions because there's nobody there, or you can't sell concessions because of the virus or whatever, that's a huge amount of money that's just being lost out on.
Yeah, that's with the movie theaters. They make like somewhere between like 1 to 10% on ticket sales, and it varies per
Yeah.
movie. Sometimes in the movies, like if can't remember what it was. I think like when one of the Star Wars movies came out, George like explicitly had it to where like for X amount of time, like that it was playing like the first week or two or something. Like I don't know if it was George or Lucasfilm in general, but it was like they get 100% of the profit. So after week 3, the theater can start making money off the ticket sales. But the first, it might be Disney actually that just does it in general for like certain big release films, because it's all
course they
contingent on the movie, right? Because it's like the biggest, just like Christopher Nolan with Tenet, he was supposed to get like some percentage of the box office directly cut to him. Like that was part of his like contract for his payout for making not Inception, but Tenet.
Yeah.
He was supposed to get like a huge like 20% or something of the box office, as opposed to like, we'll give you $5 million to make a movie. He was going to get 20% off the final box office. So it's like a crazy number. Like had that movie made like 800 million in theaters, he gets a crazy amount of money from there. Like, so like it's different with every movie, but yeah, generally speaking, like the ticket sales, movie theaters ain't making money off that. They're making money off buying popcorn for pennies on the dollar and charging you $10 per bucket.
Yeah, like $7 for like a 20-ounce drink.
Yeah, same. Like that's why I always thought it was a great idea when they finally started having like liquor and beer sales, and
because you can jack the prices so much.
Well, no, because the liquor and the beer prices it's like the same as going to a bar. So like everyone's already used to paying for overpriced drinks at a bar. So it's like it was just like, I don't know, it was a convenience factor of like, cool, I can go grab a beer, I can go watch a movie, like good stuff. But because it was the one thing at the movie theater that I always felt like I wasn't paying out the ass for, because I'm already used to paying out the ass for it when you go publicly go buy a beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just gonna be like, it's potentially just very damaging, like as far as theaters going home. Because another thing you miss out on too, because like I think one thing that a lot of people are like taking for granted right now, from just the climate that we're in with the pandemic and everything, like people are adapting and becoming used to not going to the theater and just getting the on-demand stream content, like doing the paid via, like some of these movies like Bill and Ted and Mulan and all these things that were initially going to be theater releases ended up not, and you could just buy them and watch it on your TV. So like even if theaters do open, because you got to deal with the whole thing, like people always say like the new normal and all that stupid whatevers, like are people, if the theaters do open up, like, are people going to rush back out to them like right away? Who knows? Like, and it's just you got to deal with this whole thing with people becoming accustomed to just enjoying on-demand content to the world we're going to. Because like I could see with or without theaters opening back up, like permanently or not, like let's say they do open, I could see based on some of the things like Bill and Ted, for instance, that ended up being like somewhat successful going straight to video. I could totally see the movie industry more adapting to making some like I don't know, like higher quality content to go straight to paid VOD.
Yeah,
because it's if there's a market for it, they need to fill the market. You know what I mean? Like because they just announced too, like The Witches, the Robert Zemeckis directed movie with Anne Hathaway in it. They just announced that it's skipping its theatrical run and it's going straight to HBO Max now. So it's like you're already seeing like they've offloaded, so they've had to push back so many things that 2021 is like overcrowded at this point. So along with like places like HBO Max needing content, like because they need people to subscribe to it, then they see that some things are being successful going straight to VOD services. So I mean, I could honestly see like if theaters do open back up and everything's cool, I could probably see the film industry just making a lot of movies specifically to go like straight to VOD, which I think is a good idea. But I mean, my home theater system is nothing compared to a movie theater.
You do have a pretty nice home theater system.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of people have nice home theater systems, but it's not really the same, I mean, because like,
it's not the same experience.
It's not. That's the thing. It's the experience of going. Like, it's kind of boring. Like, as much as I'd love day one or even earlier than day one of a theater launch, like if I could have watched Avengers Endgame the day it came out in my living room, I would have watched it. Like, I definitely would have watched it. But if it's just me sitting there on my couch by myself when Cap grabs Mjolnir, like that's just me being like, ooh,
yeah, like that's
as opposed to everyone just like you don't get that.
Go watch a reaction video and tell me you're gonna get that experience.
Exactly. Like this thing, like I don't like when the movie's crowded and people are being loud and noisy, just like obnoxiously. But like when you're going to some big like movie like Endgame, you kind of want that stuff, like and like
it hypes everybody up.
Yeah, it's like. Exactly. It's like when you go to a comedy show. Like you could sit there and watch a comedian like just on their special sitting on your couch, but it's not as funny as if you were there, even if they tell the exact same joke.
Yeah.
Like when you're there, your feet just
the
like
energy of the room.
Yeah, you're feeding off the crowd. Like they're laughing, so then you start laughing, and then it's a shared experience with like all these people that you would never, you don't know their name or anything, but it's just like it's an experience.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you don't get that. So I don't know. Like, despite the financial gain, because like I said, you're just gonna miss out on a lot of stuff. Like, it's gonna be a very, I don't know, just a weird world if there's no movie theaters anymore. Not that like
Very
I go
strange.
all the time, but it's like I go definitely often enough and more than a lot of people. Right. And
like of all the things that I mean, when you set aside the human aspect, the human losses that COVID has caused. If you're talking from just a societal kind of entertainment value thing that COVID has cost people, for me by far the biggest is the loss of movie theaters. I mean that's something I enjoy. I was one of the first people to sign up, for things like Movie Pass and for things like the monthly ticket subscription plan to my local cinema and stuff because. Mm-hmm. I enjoy going to movies. That's something I enjoy a lot. I love that experience of seeing something. Yeah, and that goes back to my childhood. And that first time you saw Star Wars on the big screen, seeing those ships and those space battles take place on those screens. I don't, like I said, unless you're Bill Gates and you're rocking a theater quality,
a home movie theater, literally.
Yeah, in your house. You're just not getting it's cool. It's awesome to watch it at home. I'll replay Star Wars all day long at home, but it's not the same.
It's really not.
There is a difference between seeing that on a 75, 80 inch screen versus a 800-foot screen.
Yeah.
It's just
with Dolby Atmos surround sound.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Shaking
Rocking
the
your
room.
chair.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Oh, man.
it's not the same at all. Like it's not the same. And like
Yeah.
that's my biggest fear with it too. Is like even like I said, like even if they stay open, that like they're more hesitant with even like making big movies in general because they're not getting as big of a like people to stop going. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's they've already experienced that in the past, like movie theaters, just like the Blu-rays, the physical media is dying off. They're not they're no longer making physical media, like for a lot of companies aren't anyway. And like in 5-10 years, you're not going to be able to buy those Blu-rays and stuff. They're going to be a lot harder to come by. And it's like I'm just worried that like in the end, like just by virtue of that, we're not going to get these big $300 million movies like Endgame because they're not going to be making $2.5 billion in the theater because less people are going to the theaters anymore because they're all used to on demand streaming and they'll just wait and blah blah blah. Like it's kind of like you said too. Like Movie Pass and like AMC A List kind of like revitalized the movie industry in a lot of places because like everybody like every kind of company anymore is like adopting some sort of subscription plan, and it was a real shame for like AMC because they came out with AMC A List and they finally just before COVID hit, they were just starting to turn a profit on their A lists, like all the money they sunk into creating the program. Because at first, with any kind of like startup like that, and like just with like this, they were losing money from it initially. They spent like I think it was like $5 billion to get this thing like up and going to revamp all their theaters, put the recliner seats in, do the dine-in theaters, do the A-list thing, so you can spend $20 a month for 3 movies a week. Like it's a great deal. Like spend $20, you get to go see 3 movies a week, any movie you want, no restrictions. Fantastic deal. And they just started to make profit off that, and then boom, they had to shut everything down, and now they have nothing. Which is a shame because now they're gonna have to start back in the hole and like if they do open back up, what's it mean for if they're going to be working in such a big deficit? Like, just hopefully they can like I don't know. Hopefully, like it doesn't affect the actual theater going experience. 'Cause, like if they're able to reopen the theaters but have such limited funding to do so, like you're gonna have less staff. So it's gonna be a shittier experience potentially, like, I don't know. There's just a lot of negative things that could happen from it other than the fact that we wouldn't be able to go see movies anymore. It's much more dramatic than
I
that.
guess you just have to be positive about it, though, despite the negativity. Hope things get better.
That's just there's more in my opinion, it's not just like I said, it's not just negative because won't be able to go see movies. It's just like it's gonna have it has like overreaching ramifications time, man. Like we were saying, like just people's just the kid who's their first jobs in the movie theater, the people who own
That
the
was my
buildings,
first job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that kid's not gonna have a job. Like the people who work there as their full-time jobs, like managers there, like people who own the buildings and like them buildings are huge and cost a shit ton of money just in rent fees.
And maintaining. And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like the
utilities.
landowners are out. It's not just the movie theater because they're gonna have to tear the thing down because if you're not gonna have a movie theater to go into this giant fucking complex, it's gonna have to be remodeled to be able to facilitate something else. So it's like
Usually
huge
like
overarching
mega-churches.
problem, like financially speaking. And then obviously the more cumbersome problems in that the ramifications it has on the film industry going forward, just can't make $300 million movies anymore. Streaming it's just never ending. It's a rabbit hole. It's like a YouTube rabbit hole, man. Once you start thinking about one thing, it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, then this happens, and then this happens. And
Next
this
thing you know,
happens.
you're watching how like soap's made.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have on it. So you guys got anything you want to cover on it?
I think we pretty much hit everything. Though.
All right, I'm with you. Well, let's do our outro here then, Rick. Where can everybody find you online?
It's gonna be Sir Rick Metz down here. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me, and maybe I'll follow you back.
What a treat for everybody.
Oh, I know, right? Like everybody wants
right.
It's
John,
so desirable.
Where can everybody find you?
I'm over on the Twitters at Nightwing_J.
There it is. You can follow me at Sir Rob Bifo. And again, guys, don't forget a couple things too. One, Check Honest and Uneducated is on podcast form. So if you cannot watch it on YouTube all the time, search for it on your podcast viewing app of choice. All the episodes get uploaded there. You can email us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Submit topics, questions, whatever questions you have, any recommendations, any topics you want us to cover, just email us, honestanduneducated@gmail.com. And again, I am Rob Bifo. You can follow me right there at Sir Rob Bifo. And that's pretty much it. I'm out. Take care.